people from Facebook, which is seamless because it's right there. You watch it right there, to over to YouTube, which is now an extra step of going into YouTube. So,
okay, I got you. Okay, and we could talk. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about utilizing YouTube, versus Facebook, and those benefits that you just mentioned.
you want to discuss that on the show?
We could on the show offline. No,
Okay,
no matters.
okay. We'll save it for offline.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we are live on
YouTube.
Okay, we are live on YouTube, and we're gonna get this information. Let's see here. All right, pardon my audience. We were getting a little bit of feedback here, so I just want to make sure our audio is coming through fine here. So it looks like, yes, we are live streaming on YouTube, and we are recording the show. This is the Global Empowerment Team, and we are excited again to be, providing you with some more value and another great host to kind of, we're going to go over a couple different things today, and I'm excited to dive in. Today has been I'm going to say it's been a blessed day. And the fact that my family and I, we were evacuated, and I'm sure you guys heard about the Northern California fires. So there are a number of fires going on right now. And I say blessed because, we were inconvenienced. We were evacuated from our home. We were blessed to have some family members that live next, not too far from us, that we were able to go and spend some time with and be safe with, and blessed to be back at home. We were inconvenienced for about a few hours since yesterday evening. Up until this afternoon. And like I said, we were truly blessed to be able to not come home to a burned down house, not have any health concerns, any health issues. There was no real loss. And my prayers, and to those who have suffered from loss and have had their homes burned down, praying for your strength. But like I said, it was a blessed day, and actually was still able to get some business done and reach out to some clients to make sure that they were doing okay, and offering any help that we could provide them. So we want to get going with the show. Again, it's Global Empowerment Team. I want to introduce my co-host, Khalil Macklin. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Like you said, that's somewhat of a heavy heart dealing with what we're dealing with here in Northern California with golf courses, friends, family, just our community in general being affected by what's going on. So I want to make sure we send our prayers out to everybody, our condolences out to everybody, our thoughts and everything out to everybody in our community. But we still want to be here to make sure we bring this content to sometime take 30, 40 minutes of your day away from some of the things that may be going on and kind of divert that attention over to empowering ourselves. So I'm excited to be here. I just watched the lottery for the NBA draft, and the Warriors have the number 2 pick in the draft next year. So that's exciting as well. But I'm excited even more so about our guest, especially amidst these times that we have during COVID-19, some of these wildfires in Northern California. I'm excited for our guest, who's a friend of mine for maybe the last 2 years or so, an advocate in our community, someone who I look up to as a confidant, a fellow entrepreneur, a mentor at times. So Johnicon, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thank you. Blessed to be here.
No problem, man. We blessed to have you here. We excited to have you here as well.
Thank you.
Benny, what's going on with you? Before I get into this bio, how you doing, man? I mean, I know, like you said, you've been evacuated. Luckily, you have some family and you got friends, because you could have came to my house as well, but you got family and stuff, so you got places to go to. But all in all, how are you and the family doing, being displaced from your homes, coming back home, although the home is still in good standing and good condition? How are you holding up emotionally and mentally?
You know what? This is our second one in this particular neighborhood that we live in. We border Fairfield and Vacaville. And this one was nowhere near as exciting as the first one. We did get the knock on the door, however, that it was a mandatory evacuation. Our whole neighborhood seemed to have left at the same time. We were all able to get out safely. I came back to the house late last night, just kind of take a drive through the neighborhood, see if anything was going on, see if there was anything I could help out with. And it was pretty dark, I don't know if PG&E had partial lights off or, partial electricity going to the neighborhood, but some of our neighbors were actually coming back, late last night, and this is around 12 a.m. So I don't know if I'm actually looking out my window here, and it's hills, it's just dry brush. So looking at these hills this time in 2017, I could actually see the fire coming down those hills into the neighborhood. It literally was about a block away from homes within our neighborhood. This time we didn't even see any of the fires crest the hill. And I think, our local police department, our local fire department, they did an excellent job with getting the word out and getting the evacuations done in an orderly and orderly fashion. They were, communicable. I was able to ask some questions, get some updates from the local PD as to what was going on. So, I mean, they did, like I said, an excellent job. And I just thank God that it was no fatalities. Thank God it was no fires that actually reached us. And, one of those things is that, they were very preemptive with, getting the word out. And so I know of some areas in Vacaville, unfortunately, that homes were burned down, property was lost. So my prayers go to those families that did suffer loss. I haven't heard of any fatalities, thank God. Structures, they could be replaced, although you have personal items such as photos and stuff like that can't be replaced. However, if you're blessed to still have your life, you can create more memories. So,
Amen to that.
Yeah, right. So like I said, I'm blessed, and it was just just an experience that we deal with. So we're kind of on standby. I know the fires are still going. I have some clients in different areas around Solano County and Napa County, our bordering county, that are still under evacuation. So my prayers go out to them. We've been in contact with local authorities just to stay abreast of all the updated information, so that way we can be a resource when we do reach out to we've been reaching out to our database today, our clients, and just kind of having a conversation about what can we do? Is there any help that you need? Do you have any questions? We might have some answers for you. We might have got some information, from the local authorities as to what's going on, or, kind of an update. So just kind of touching base and just, like I said, being a resource and helping out where we can.
Nice. Well, continue the good fight, man. Prayers are with you as well. And thank you for still being available for our show and our guest. And I want to make sure that we present to some and introduce to others the president of the Tri-City NAACP, Mr. Johnicon. George, I'm glad you got that census in the background, because they just came to my house. They just came to Benny's house. And we want to talk about the importance of the census and getting involved. So thank you. But I want to make sure I give you your proper introduction. So Mr. Johnicon George Sr. is an activist, community organizer, and advocate. His company, Icon Connects LLC, was developed to build stronger communities by connecting the community to professional institutions, community-based organizations, and government entities. Furthermore, providing, bridging, building, strategic planning, and facilitation services. Over the past 20 years, he has served in various leadership roles within the community. Johnicon was a founding board member of the Bayview Rotary Club. Nice. I'm a Rotarian. I'm a president of my Rotary Club out in Vacaville. So we got to talk. I got to get you out to talk to my Rotary Club, man. The vice president of the Bayview Merchant Association, owner operator of the first Black bookstore in San Francisco's Bayview Hunter Point, and local and global mission servant leader at Mount Calvary Baptist Church of Fairfield. He currently serves as a board member of the Solano County Black Chamber of Commerce. He is also serving his second term as president of the Tri-City branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Johnicon, thank you for being a guest on our show. You have a lot of accomplishments, and I want to dive into those. And first, starting with your involvement with the NAACP. How did you become the president? What was your road to becoming the the president of the NAACP? Why? I mean, I know why the NAACP, but why did you choose the NAACP? How did you get involved? And what's the importance of not only just business owners, but Black people, not only just Black people, minorities? You know what I mean? Because it's not just Black people, it's the National Advancement for the Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And I know a lot of people outside of Black people that consider themselves people of color. So what was your road to getting involved, to becoming president? And what's the importance of people of color being involved in the NAACP?
Well, Brother Khalil, let me just start off by saying I want to thank both of you gentlemen for what you do. I think it's important. This platform is important. And I just appreciate you. And just, I'm honored that you look to me to get on and share my experience, my journey with your audience. But before I get into that, I just want to, say to our communities that my prayers go out to each and every one of you. I know these are some difficult times that we're living in. I was having a conversation with one of our members, and it's just like, she was bawling in tears, just like, I can't take any more. What's next? We got, the recent murders, of African Americans. COVID is just, and then the fires. She was just like, I can't take another. I can't take another thing, So my prayers go out. I hope that the families are safe. Please try to stay indoors because the air quality is poor. Try to help conserve energy so that we could avoid PG&E during the rolling blackouts, power outages. One of the important things that I tell our members is to make sure you keep your devices charged up, because you never know if your power go off, you deaf. You know how our cell phones are connected to us like a limb, and so we want to be able to get in contact with first responders and our families just to let them know that we're safe. So my prayers out to you all, Solano County. But the NACP, as a youngster, I've been in advocacy, for forever. I remember I was born in Chicago. We came out to California when I was 10 years old. But, I remember my mom taking me to Black Panther Party lectures and events in Chicago. That's like etched in my memory, because I just remember the whole, it's a memory of power and significance, Black power, and just being proud of who I was. And then right before we moved from Chicago to California, Roots came on. And so I never, that whole lens of racism, I was exposed to that, because in Chicago, all of our police were Black. My dentist was Black, my doctor was Black, my teacher was Black. The shopkeepers, the grocery store employees were all Black. So when I seen that, that shook my world. It rocked my world. So then we came to California, one of the most diverse places in our country. So we came to California, and it was a whole new culture shock. But I come from that school where we ended up in Bayview Hunters Point. My early accomplishments or accolades, as you could tell, was in Bayview Hunters Point. And so, that whole activism and advocacy spirit that my mother instilled in me, that you don't outgrow that, you don't outlive that. And so when we came to California, San Francisco, Bayview Hunters Point, she still, spoke out at the tenant associations, about the schools, the PTA. So I was exposed to that advocacy all of my life through my mother, and so, that's my legacy. And so when I moved up here to Solano, that great exodus from the Bay Area, some folks went to Contra Costa County, and then some of us came out here to Solano. I was still going back and forth to San Francisco, but it got tiring. So I said, let me try to get involved in my own community. And I started off at my church. I joined my church, Mount Calvary Baptist Church. My pastor in San Francisco, Calvin Jones, Providence Baptist Church, sent my family a letter to Dr. Claiborne Lee Jr. And so we transferred our membership to Mount Calvary. And then I got involved immediately in their missions, evangelism and missions division. I led teams to South Africa, Ghana, West Africa twice, Haiti a couple of times. So I did global missions. And again, it's just something that my mom instilled in me. And if I can, and I'll get to your question, I promise. And if I could say my life reflected on a particular scripture, it'll have to be Proverbs 31 verses 8 and 9, which reads, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and the helpless to see that they get justice." And reflecting on that scripture, that's pretty much how I live my life, and how I see my mother, live her life as she raised me and my 8 siblings. And so there was a presentation before leaving San Francisco. I was a member of the San Francisco branch of the NAACP. And so one church service, the past president Fred Young, gave a presentation at Mount Calvary. And, I was kind of blown away. I was like, what? We have an NACP in Fairfield? And so I immediately joined. I joined as the Religious Affair Committee Chair. And I just been, trying to organize all of the organize a faith-based community and see how together collectively we can address the social issues. And then, so I didn't know when I joined, I was getting set up to be the next president of the branch. I just wanted to serve. And so for health reasons, past President Young was kind of, fading out. And so he encouraged me to run. I won the first election that I ran. That was the first term, and then my work wasn't complete because the first thing I wanted to do was to, boost our visibility in the community. The second goal was to increase our numbers. The third goal was to increase our revenue. And so I've accomplished, I would like to believe that I accomplished all of those things. And so I felt that it was still something that wasn't a need that I need to accomplish before just stepping back. So I ran for my second term, and then, the Lord led to me, you're in a military community. And so the NACP actually have a Armed Services and Veterans Affairs Committee. And so I linked up with a brother, Brother Branch, Gerard Branch. He's our he's our Veterans Affairs Committee Chair. And then also the youth. I believe that in order for us to continue this fight, we have to pass the baton. Number one, we have to train up the youth, in the right way to go. And then we also have to step back and let that generation lead, without interfering, because the way they lead is going to be different from the way I lead, our generation lead, us 3 brothers on this call. And then the way we lead is like different than how they led in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So each generation is a different style. Like they got social media, they got information right at their fingertips. So we can't hold on to it, embrace the way we're doing it. We got to let them do their thing, but guide them. We have to properly guide them at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that our youth council chair was reinstated by our council, by our California convention. And so, our next elections are coming up for the next term, 2021, 2022. I haven't decided if I want to run again. You may know that I'm in a law program at Solano Community College. That's one of the goals. I want to major in law, practice civil rights law, and then my minor in communications, improve my communication skills. So that's pretty much how I got involved. But this fight is, last and I end with this. Last semester, I took a history class, United States history. I believe that the correct title was United States history from 1865 to present. So we deal with the Civil War, Reconstruction, World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and I was stuck. I couldn't get past Reconstruction. And that started right my summer class started right on the heels of the George Floyd murder and all of the, the protests and everything that was going on, not only in our country, but around the globe. And, they talked about the vagrancy laws. We learned about vagrancy laws, which basically mean if you don't have a job, they could just take you to jail just for not being employed. And if your skin color is black, they're not going to employ you, because, slavery was abolished. And so if they can get you to work or if they can continue that slavery, then, you couldn't, you couldn't work. So these vagrancy laws was a way for them to, lock us up and then that's what the whole prison industrial complex was birthed. And then in addition to that, our law enforcement, I wasn't aware, our law enforcement came from what they call black codes. And so the sheriffs hire, these racist guys from the South to go out and just, harass African Americans, find something to arrest them for, put them in jail, and they got the cheap labor. And so that's what this whole prison industrial and slavery, the 13th Amendment, read the 13th Amendment. We talked a little bit about the 13th Amendment, and there's an awesome documentary on Netflix. I think it's just simply titled 13.
13, yep.
Yeah, and so it talks about all of that. And so, it just confirmed, the Lord confirmed that, he had me right where he wants me. And so the struggle is real, and it's just interesting that a lot of stuff that was going on back then.
Still today. Yeah,
yes,
still today.
Yes,
yeah, unfortunately so.
Yes.
Yeah, we share similar backgrounds. I'm from San Francisco, from Bernal Heights, so
okay.
I'm your neighbor.
All right.
Yeah, and then also a really good friend of mine and a co-host that we had on one of our earlier shows, Shaman Walton. He's 10th district supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Out of Bayview. Yeah, and he's doing some great things in that community in San Francisco overall as well. So yeah, so definitely thank you for your services, and thank you for you're doing some great work in that area, and then also moving here into Solano County. So one of the things you touched on, that you kind of got a lot of your fire from your mom and from that generation who's kind of guided you where you are right now, and you also emphasize that with building the foundation now to let our youth, the next generation, carry the torch. And I joined the NAACP, and I just came across, like I said, over the little short amount of time of putting our stuff together and throwing them in bags and backpacks and everything, I came across a pin here, NAACP pin from 1952.
Oh wow!
So this was my grandfather's pin.
Oh wow!
So my grandfather was a member of NAACP
yes,
and a number of different things in the community and in the church. So a lot of the things that I find myself doing now as was instilled in me by my grandfather. So I saw Khalil raise up his shirt, each one teach one. So it definitely does impact us, the generation coming underneath us, from that foundation, from those conversations, from just watching our adults and our the people that are around us, our adults around us, and seeing what they do, seeing how they've been an impact in the community, and seeing how they've been a huge influence, whether they even had a chance to sit down and talk to us, we watching. So we now as in a situation, in a position to teach our youth and guide our youth and build that foundation in them. It's a huge responsibility. And so that's one of the things that Khalil and I have, we've stepped up and established this group to do that, to make sure that we are, impacting our community and impacting those that, may look to us to, instill that fire and keep that fire going. So outside of your mom and your foundation and that, what's been your big why? Like, what's been your big push and continually to be consistent and continually to drive and to push that narrative of, equality in the communities and creating an environment of building and creating an environment of striving and pushing us forward.
Well, just being a black man in America, but
every black man, we
that's true.
It's a lot of black men in this world, in this that are suffering, that have suffered, they don't have a voice, right? We had a couple of different police chiefs on, and we had a couple of conversations around police violence and what's going on right now. Well, not even right now, what's been going on.
Right.
You brought up a huge topic about social media and that being a tool. That's a huge tool that that we now have that has put what's been going on in the forefront to the world.
Yes,
right. Yes. So with that being said, there's a lot of us that have just kind of put our head down and just this is just what the norm is. This is how it is. And had been acceptive of it. I watched the film that, oh gosh, I'm gonna mess up her name, Duvernay redid of the youth in Central Park. how they
yeah.
went to jail behind, the rape, and how the police, just put that on them. They weren't even involved, right? And had to do all these number of years for a crime that they didn't commit. And one of the fathers in that movie, he had that fear. He had that innate fear of the police and of the system, and told his son, like, look, this is going to be the best way out. Just do what they say, no matter what it is. Do what they say. And unfortunately, he had a 14-year-old. I think it was 14 years old. Goes to jail for 14 years or 15 years, and I mean, we just went through atrocities. And it was behind that ideology of just put your head down and do what they say.
Yeah, well, again, so for me personally, it's just being a Black man in America, and then again, it's that fire that my mom instilled in me, And so my whole thing is with my boys. I have two sons, a 32-year-old and a 13-year-old, and so my mom shared with us stories of how my grandfather, he had like her peers that she was going to school with, would address him as boy, and he had to put his head down and, and accept that, they couldn't look, white folk in the eye, directly, they couldn't speak to him, like my father taught me, to speak a man in the eye when you're talking to him and shake his hand, give him a firm handshake, back then, again, with the stories that my mother was sharing with me about my grandfather, they basically had to put their head down, and so that was some of the things that my mom instilled, just seeing her father, being treated like that from her peers, from her classmates, she wanted to instill that her son, didn't have to go through that and knew who he was. And so again, it was instilled in me from my mother. And so I'm trying to instill it into my boys as well, and then my whole thing, I get nervous, any Black parent, male or female, when your Black boy go out that door, it's always in the back of your head, is my son going to return? And so my passion has always been, to address injustice and inequalities in our community, and that's just, that, again, it's just been in me, and I lost my train of thought, but that's pretty much it, so that I can ensure that my boys, know how to, stand up, look a man in his eye, shake a man's hand, give him a firm handshake, and have a backbone.
Yeah, those things are crucial, man. I remember my dad when I was young. My dad used to always emphasize that. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Like, you think my dad, the stuff that he would say, you like, man, what? And then you get older and you realize he's preparing you for when you go in that real world. You have to look a man in the eye, a man, whoever it is. You want to look them in the eye to see their sincerity, for them to see that you're paying attention. You want to give somebody a firm handshake to let them know that you mean business. You want to present yourself in a certain way, as far as being clean shaved, wearing a certain suit, knowing how to tie your tie, knowing how to communicate in the right manner. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people have the biggest misconception about Black men. We talked about this, I think, a couple of episodes ago, is that any Black man I know is an upstanding Black man that loves his community, that loves his family, that loves his mother, his wife, the mother of his children, whatever the case is. And that's the importance of having these type of conversations for other people to then see, as you mentioned, because the reason why I wear these each one teach one shirts, or out of one comes many, which are things, anytime I do a post, I'm going to tell you, out of one comes many, each one teach one. Like, there's certain, I share because I care. These are things that were instilled in me because, as you mentioned about your pops, as Benny mentioned about his granddad, and I'm pretty sure his dad as well, they were community based. And believe it or not, sometimes a lot of this stuff, you don't have to tell people nothing. All you got to do is go do the work, and people see the action that you do, because action speaks louder than words. So my dad may not have ever told me necessarily get involved in the community in those words, but he went and did certain things. He was involved in the NAACP. He did, just like you guys, parents were involved in certain things, which then got you involved. You shake a hand, you look somebody in the eyes, it passes down to your kids. And that brings me to my question that I have for you to tie it all into the Icon Connects, because in my estimation, Icon Connects is all of that in a nutshell. It's you connecting people with their community, with other people that are like-minded, people that can then further the community and this particular person into a different stratosphere of success. That's what Icon Connects to me. It means I'm going to connect you not only with the right people, but the right frame of mind, with the right type of mentality, with the right type of get up and go, and the right type of perception. Because if I can connect you with all the people in the world, but if I don't know where your mental is at to take that connection to the whole next level for yourself, then what really good is the connection? So if you can elaborate on Icon Connects and how that ties into everything else that you do, from the NAACP to the census, which we'll get to in a moment, to your passion for getting involved with civil rights law, all Icon connects to all of those things. So if you can elaborate on that, please.
Yes, let me share this quote. And it says, this is from James Baldwin. It says, children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. And that just goes to what you were saying, Brother Khalil. You may not, specifically tell your kids, hey, I need you to get out and do this, get out, do that, but they watch what you do. Your kids, you may not know it or not, but your kids are watching, watching everything you do and follow your lead. And so I got my train of thought. I'm gonna get to your question. One of the things that I also wanted to share is that another part of to the previous question, another part of my passion and drive is that growing up in Bayview Hunters Point, when my mom divorced my father and brought us out here to California from Chicago, I have 7 siblings. And so she worked countless jobs, worked her way off of welfare. She worked countless jobs, worked her way off of welfare. And then so when the 80s hit, the crack epidemic hit, and so I see my mom struggling, and I got in the game, and there was a police officer. They did a raid. He picked me up, and he said, you don't fit in. You don't fit in with these guys. And I never forgot that, And so when I reflect back and look at how many of my boys that I grew up with in the hood that's, dead and gone or in prison, or just addicted and just, not only addicted to drugs, but addicted to that lifestyle, I thank God, and I think he spared my life for a reason. And so I don't take that lightly. I don't share that story to glorify, drugs, the street life. I share that story to, if he did it for me, he could do it for you, so that's why I share that story. And it reminds me of what he pulled me out of and what he brought me to. And then on the other flip side of that, a lot of we're talking about, a lot of men, Black men that have their head down. I'm sure you brothers know about the Willie Lynch letter, when the slave owner from I think it was the West Indies came to the States, and, the slave owners in the States asked them how, we having this uprising, because, there's always been some strong brothers that revolted. History books not going to tell you that, but there's been brothers that, from the Middle Passage, they rather jump over in the ships, than to be in bondage. They rather be free in their death than to be in bondage. So you always had strong brothers that stood up, but they're not going to tell you that, And so it was, systemically, to break brothers down, so they'll take the biggest one and whoop them, sodomize them in front of everybody, and so that just put fear in other brothers not to revolt. And so I think I was just that one brother that's, that rather go down dying than to stand up and take the discrimination. But Icon Connects, I've been privileged to sit at a lot of different tables as the president of the NACP, and a lot of times, I think it's fair to say almost all the time, we're not at the tables. We're not at the table. We miss out on a lot of things, from funding to educational opportunity to entrepreneurship opportunities, just because we're not at the table. A lot of times I go into city council meetings, school board meetings, and the moment, we get there, when I say we, I'm talking about African Americans, and even I stand up to the podium and announce myself as a president of the NACP, the whole climate change in the room, the whole discussion change. We're not at the table. And so one of the things that I envision with Icon Connect is to connect in our community to everything from educational services, to affordable housing, to entrepreneurship opportunities. And, because again, one of the things that I think we don't do as a people is share the information. It's almost like, oh, it's some funds over there, I'm gonna keep that to myself. When the other communities, we all gonna get it because we all gonna win. If you win, I'm winning. So we gotta adapt that same mentality. And so, one of the things that I got on the horn, when the whole the COVID money was coming out, the payroll protection money, and then what was the EILD money. I called as many African American business owners that I knew and told them, hey, you need to click on this, you need to apply for this money. And then a lot of them, they believe it or not, a lot of them, they disqualified themselves. Oh, I'm not gonna get it. They're not gonna give it to me. I said, bro, you're not gonna know it till you try. Hey, I sit on the phone with you, log on, if you're hitting the wall, tell me what they're asking you. I'll walk you through it. So me personally, want to connect our community, to opportunities. And so that's in a nutshell, that's what Icon Connect, exists for, to connect our community to opportunities.
Very nice, very nice. I actually, we as our team, we took it upon ourselves to do the same thing and reach out to as many people as we could to educate them on, the SBA loans, the PPP, like you mentioned, the payroll protection plan. I actually called Khalil and walk him through the steps. And it was funny. A lot of the feedback was like, is this real? Am I gonna get in trouble? Am I gonna, are they gonna come after me? So I mean, it was, it's unfortunate that we still suffer from that fear mentality, and instead of taking it upon ourselves to do the research.
Yes.
Even if I do tell you that this is the situation, still take it upon yourself to do the research. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, business owner, you got to have that drive, that extra anyways. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got, those are things that you got to stay learning based. Yes. That's essential. And with your business, with your connections, that in itself is another part of being able to establish yourself as a successful business. Is having those connections. You gotta be a resource, one, to others, but however, you gotta have connections to the resources, because you're gonna have a need. Your business will have a need, and being able to reach out to the people that can help that and can facilitate that need is essential. So that's that right there. When I first went on your webpage, I mean, that's just stuck out like a neon sign to me, because that's one of the things that we've and I've done as the CEO of my company. Has been very proactive with building out our business-to-business network. And I like to tell my clients that, instead of calling Google or reaching Google or Yelp, call me. I want to be able to be that resource, whether you need, in real estate, not even just in real estate, just anything. Like if, you want to go buy a cigar to go celebrate your newborn son, or you want to have somebody to facilitate a luncheon for your company, utilize us, because we have resources in all the different communities that we serve. So we be able to put you in contact with the person, not somebody that just works for this company, but the person that can help you out. So I think that's very, very important. And I want to ask you, so, I mean, that's, your passion in being a community advisor and a community educator, and then also your business around being a resource, seem to kind of coincide with each other. They're kind of one in the same. What other business opportunities are you taking? What other services that do you provide as as an entrepreneur to the community?
So one of the other things that we do, there's a program that we got called Project Complete. We find that very often the individual may get may be very skillful, in securing a grant, securing, a contract, but then the implementation part of it, they may be lacking. They may not be meeting their numbers or their benchmarks, So with Project Complete, we come in and manage the project. We can either walk you through the steps of managing the projects, or we implement the project for you. So that's one of the things that we do through Project Connect. We also work with nonprofit organizations. We just secured $11,500 for one of the nonprofits here in Sassoon City. Excellent resources, been around for, I think she's been around for almost 7 years, but just couldn't get the funding that she needed to take her organization to the next level, because number one, someone either took advantage of her when she hired them to do some grant writing for them. you know, which is sad, you know, but unfortunately it happens. And, you know, it was like, you know, for me, you know, I do this for free, you know, because my whole thing is if, again, if you win, I win, you know, we all win, you know. So it was the fee that we charged was very, you know, small, just for the simple fact that, you know, the individuals that I have that write for me, you know, I want to make sure that they're compensated. It might be a passion for me, but you know, they doing this to put food on their family's table. You know, I might get a hamburger, you know, and a beer out the deal, you know. So I look at it like that. And one of the things that I found, you know, I remember when I first got in the game in San Francisco, you know, my mentor told me we work for young community developers. And I don't know when was the last time you've been back to the San Francisco or the Bayview, but this was right when they started bringing the light rail, the
Mm-hmm.
T-train down 3rd Street. You know, so they came to our organization because the contractors, when you have a contract with the company, you have to hire a certain amount of minorities, a certain amount of women companies. So so they came to our organization for the job training, you know, and then these contractors came to get their labor pool from us, you know. And so my mentor told me, you know, always think about it. If I had the funds, you know, to do something, if money wasn't an issue, you know, what would you be doing? And so for me, that's what it is, you know, advocacy and activism and community organizing, you know. So you know, I just look at, you know, doing this as a passion, and the money is always going to follow. So if you follow your passion, the money is going to follow. You don't have to price gouge anybody. You don't have to try to make your million off your first customer or off one customer. You know, follow your passion, the money is going to follow you. And so one of the other things that we do, I teamed up with I didn't team up, I brought into a program called Legal Shield.
Mhm.
And it's just for the simple fact that, you know, because we came into this whole, we live in virtually now, right? And so, believe it or not, every time you know, do a post or you know you go on social media, there's an opportunity that you may get hacked, or you know your identity may be stolen. And so, my goal is that, you know, everyone that I know in my circle of influence, or anyone that visiting in my social media platforms, know that this service exists. You know, I know that there's a lot of people that get involved in that, you know, to try to make money to bring other people in. It's a whole bunch of money you can make off of that by, you know, recruiting other people and building your team. But that's not why I got into it. I got into it to make sure that the community had access to, you know, identity protection program that's affordable, and it is.
Yep.
And then even they also have legal, you know, because, you know, how many of us could pay $300 for a lawyer to write a letter for us, right? And so we offer, rather, let me put it that way, we offer affordable, you know, legal services. Because again, working with the NACP, I see a lot of individuals that don't get the justice that they need just because of, you know, they have a lack of resources. And so that's why I got into it. And again, with the same motto is that if I follow my passion, the money is going to come. So I don't have to try to build this whole team and recruit people to try to help sell Legal Zoom. You know, I'm not Legal Zoom, Legal
Legal
Shield.
Shield.
Yeah, and build my team, and I get these residuals. That's not why I'm in it. You know, so those are some of the services that we offer.
Okay. Yeah, I have legal shield and ID shield as well. I'm not trying to sign anybody up for it. I just want to benefit for myself of protecting my own. I'm always like skeptical and leery of those things that want me to sign somebody up on a downline. When I was a kid, I did this thing called Mona V, which was like this acai juice that's super expensive.
Oh
That's
yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
be the cure to all life. And man, I was all in. I'm a young entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, hey, what it costs to get involved? Let's go do it. I'm doing presentations, pouring everybody's little nasty juice. Don't nobody like it. Everybody buying it. I said, man, never again will you get me involved in that. But you know what I learned from that, though? What you just said is I learned I want to be a resource. And if I'm going to be a resource, that means I have to have a certain amount of integrity with the resource that I am, which means I can't just bring a product around you that's just going to make me money. Sometimes I got to just follow my passion, like you said, and the money will follow the passion. And when you follow your passion, you never seem like you're working a day in your life. Like, I don't think, honestly, since I started my career that I've ever really worked, because I love doing what I do, meeting with people, and educating them, and talking about retirement and finances and being a resource, like you said. And then I get to bring people like Benny and Johnicon on a conversation, and have a conversation with people that are sharper than me. Like, this work? Okay, well, I mean, if that's the case, I want to work all the time. So that leads to, in my estimation, the sign right behind you, that census, and the understanding of the census. You putting yourself in these positions to be an advocate and to be a resource, I'm pretty sure led you to where now, because there's a lot of misconception with the census. Oh, they're trying to track me and know where I'm at and know my house and my net worth and all this. And people really don't understand the bottom line and the importance of the census. And from what it looks like, your involvement, from your church involvement, your upbringing, led to the NAACP. You now start Icon Connects. But somewhere along the line, becoming that resource and educating yourself about the census and the importance of it, added that to your bag of being a resource. So if you could touch up on your role with the census, not only that, the importance of the census for us as residents in wherever you are, because they do it in every single state, every single city, every community, they're doing the census. So if you could elaborate on the importance of, when the census man comes by, when they call you, when you get that information in the mail, why we should fill it out, why we should be honest, why we should be open, and what happens afterwards.
Well, let me start by saying this. I totally understand the fear. I totally understand the what term am I looking for? The
trepidation, the apprehension.
Yes, all of that. You know, because you look back for, and I speak for our experience and the Hispanic community experience. For our experience, you know, the Tuskegee experiment. You know, a lot of people may not know what that was, but you know, African American men was purposely injected with syphilis, you know, to do studies. And so, you know, that whole thing goes back, you know, when I was talking about how when they were breaking slaves or buck breaking, and when I spoke about that earlier, all that stuff is passed down from that fear is passed down from generation to generation. And now you have African American men that won't even go to the doctor, you know, because, you know, that whole history and mistrust, you know, from the medical field. But so a lot of that, you know, apprehension comes from our community because of that. But, you know, I ask everybody, you know, when people talk about the census is going to track you, I ask them, says, do you have a social security card? The government already know where you at, who you are, how much money you make. They already have that information. So that's not what the census is about. You have a social security card. They already know who you are. You know, and so the census, the purpose of the census is to make sure that we have resources in our community. It takes only 2 to 3 minutes. You know, to ask you simple questions like how many people are in a household, what's the you know, what's the medium income, what's the you know, how much money you make, things like that. What's your ethnicity, the ages of individuals in the house. And here's why it's important for us in Solano County. And if I'm not sure if I can share my screen, it's something I want to show you all. But here, let me see if I can give it a try. You guys know if
you should.
Yeah, you should be able to. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see something right quick. And I just keep talking while I try to pull that up. So one of the things that I can't find. I try to come back to it. One of the things that we got to realize is that back in the days, you had a lot of not back in the days. So the Great Exodus. The Great Exodus from the Bay Area. I think I mentioned it earlier. So you had, you know, folks leaving San Francisco, and you know, we came to either Contra Costa County, or we went to, or out here in Solano, right? So that was after the 2010 census. So the infrastructure here in Solano and in a lot of communities wasn't ready or wasn't equipped to take on the, you know, the what was it? I think someone said it was like a 9% growth rate that came out here to Solano County. You know, the roads wasn't ready, the schools wasn't ready, you know, the infrastructure wasn't ready. And so now we have an opportunity to capture the real population here in Solano County, so that we can make sure that we have enough, our public transportation, you know, is adequate, our schools are adequate, housing is adequate. And so that's what the census was. So that's the purpose of the census. So we can know who, how many, and then that the money from the feds could trickle down to our state and then trickle down locally to our counties. And then so this is Fairfield. This red area or hot pink area, this is what we call a hard to count area. These individuals, haven't completed the census, aren't registered to vote, and susceptible to, natural disasters like we have it now. So it's a threefold lift right now that we're trying to do. We're trying to get them registered to vote. We're trying to get them to complete the census.
What area of Fairfield is that?
So this is what an old DMV is. What
By Home Depot, right?
JJ's, JJ's, all of that on that side of is that Texas? That's side of West
North Texas. Yep.
That side of North Texas where JJ's is, St. Stephen's Church. The old DMV. That's all that area right there. And so we really trying to and so I'm plug in a shameless commercial. So on August the 29th, the NACP, we're partnering with the Deltas, with the Omegas, Cape Patrice Organization, Brand Gov, the National Council of Negro Women, St. Stephen's CME Church, Bethel Community Church, Mount Calvary Baptist Church, the Fairfield Police Department. We're trying to get the fire department on board. So we're collaborating with all these organizations in our community, and we're going to have pop-ups all around all of this area and some of these areas down here. And we're going to encourage individuals to register to vote and also to complete the census. Nice. And the first one is going to be the 29th of August, and then the second one, the 19th of September. And we're going to have one in the 26th of September in Sassoon. And so one of the other things you guys mentioned that, you had the enumerators come and knock on your door. And so when the census first started, they asked for folks, they sent you something in the mail. You start seeing the media blasts about complete the census. So they were trying to encourage people to self-complete the census. So at a certain date, that's when they start sending the enumerators out into the community. And those are the folks that was knocking on your door saying, hey, you haven't completed the census. Can you complete the census? One of the things that's alarming for me is that in this in this pandemic that we're living in, I don't want nobody knocking on my door,
right.
With a mask or without a mask, you know what I'm saying? So we're trying to get folks to just go ahead and complete the census, keep our community safe, keep the numerator safe, keep you and your family safe, and try to avoid someone coming knocking on your door and saying, hey, bro, why you ain't fill out your census? So we just want folks to go to 2020census.gov and fill out the census.
Hey, just so y'all know, mine was crossed up, all right? So I sent it in the time that he came over. It was already sent, just so you know. Okay?
All right.
So you kind of briefly talked about some of the misconceptions around the census. And, we talked about that before, with having a fearful mentality. So, outside of obviously it counting towards government aid and federal aid, and you also talked about the importance of being involved in the local community. So outside of being able to build out the infrastructure, being able to build out the schools, being able to accommodate the influx of people moving into the county. And then also what other benefits are around being able, putting your hand up and being a part of the census. And then two, I'm sure you probably heard of every, conspiracy theory, every misconception out there since you are affiliated with the census. Do you want to, speak to what even, any of that is any truth to any of those situations? And, because, and that's the thing is I'm trying to, because we like to talk about application points instead of, speaking about the problem, right? And so we want to clear that up, one, because, if you're stuck in fear, fear is going to paralyze you, right? Fear is not going to, you're not even going to hear what the benefits are, right? So that's, that's one of the things that we've talked about in some of our earlier calls, especially with around, police violence and systemic racism within, the different organizations that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, obviously, we've talked about on this call and a number of other calls what the importance of is, what the importance of being involved in your local community is, and how that can impact your day-to-day life and your family's life, even more so than on a national level. But this census is more so to upcure, to basically get the funds from a national level, because it comes from the federal government more so than the local government. So speaking, do you, I mean, yeah, and we don't want to take time and just go over all of them or a bunch of them, but I've heard a number of different things where they're keeping track of you based on the pandemic. They're keeping track of you based on trying to track you to see if there's any anybody involved in any illegal things or anything. I mean, I've just heard of a number because it's a topic of discussion, because we are getting people that are coming to knock on people's doors. So I just want to erase some of those misconceptions and just kind of like I said, reiterate what the importance of the census is.
Well, so one of the things that they don't even ask you those type of questions. So that right there, if you want, just I would encourage people, to log on and see the questions that they're asking. So none of those questions that they're concerned about are even being asked. But however, there is, I was involved when I was in San Francisco working for that nonprofit organization that I mentioned, Young Community Developers. We were instrumental in the 2010 census. And so here I am again with the 2020 census. And so I do, I've seen how it works. And so one of the things that I do know, and I can tell you for sure, is that our communities are discouraged from completing the census. And, my personal opinion is so that the funds don't come to our community. And so that's another way of institutionalizing systemic ways of keeping us locked out of places. One of the reasons, one of my a piece of evidence is how the census supervisors are hired. So they hired everyone in all these other communities in the affluent communities, and then the census takers or census supervisors in our community got hired late in the game, And so now we're trying to catch up to get those hard to count areas that I highlighted in the map, done. And so there's all these excuses of how why that happened and what the mishap could have been, but 10 years census after census, these last two censuses, I've witnessed it. So I don't see how it could, just magically be, the same mistake over and over. And so that's why it takes us to make sure that we're counted, to make sure that we have those services in our community. Because, here's another example. So in San Francisco, the PG&E, PG&E is a big monopoly, especially in San Francisco. They provide all the energy. So they had money. After that, I don't know if y'all remember in San Bruno years ago, I was still in San Francisco. It was a big old explosion underground.
Yeah, I was living there too.
So when PG&E, to be proactive, they set aside money, because they got billions of dollars to in San Francisco to do repairs and infrastructure upgrades to those, so that they don't have another one, a repeat in San Francisco. They started in the Richmond, they started in the avenues, and then when they came to the Bayview Hunters Point, they ran out of money. So that type of thing is what we're seeing also with the census, is so that our community is still being left behind. And then so we only could blame ourselves if we don't go out and although they put these obstacles in front of us, we still as community leaders have to make sure that our folk do fill out the census. And even like little tricks, like they have a thing like if you there's a question if you identify as Black, and then they have these subcategories, so that's thinning out or watering out, the numbers for African, for us, when, just we're all Black, the police.
But then they have it for where you could be Jamaican, you could be Haitian.
That's what I'm saying. So that's to water down our account. That's to water down our account. So we're all Black, because when you get pulled over by the police, you Black.
Yeah, they're not talking about, so are you from Trinidad, Tobago, or are you from Haiti? Where you from? That's not happening at all.
But let me go ahead.
No, go. You go. Finish.
No, so one other thing that I want to highlight, because I promised that I was going to touch on our Hispanic brothers and sisters. And so for them, it's an immediate fear, because early on, we know for sure that ICE was knocking on their doors trying to pretend like they were census takers, you know. And so that threat, that fear was real. And so we, you know, we purposely partner with people like Mike Silver, you know, and other individuals to go into their community, you know, and tell them, you know, the census numerators aren't out yet. So if somebody knock on your door, they not with the census, you know. So again, being community leaders, community influencers, we have to partner with, you know, with our other, with our brown brothers as well, to make sure that our communities are safe.
The advancement of colored people. So that's what
Yeah.
it's that brings me to a big 360 to where, because I know we are at the hour, but that brings me at things that we've touched up on, which I love, because we got your why on how you got involved. You're involved with the NAACP through your church involvement, through your upbringing with your mom, your siblings, moving from Chicago, which, just so you know, my family from Southside Chicago. So
West Side.
I got roots there as well. But we heard about once again, your upbringing and how you got involved in the NAACP. We've heard about how that then kind of ties into your icon connection, what you're doing and your connectivity with the community, which then ties into the census, because that then connects the community with the money and the funding that we desperately need in our community. But you mentioned something else, which was you're studying for civil rights law. And that for me then is the cherry on top of the Sunday that you just built between the NAACP, the census, Icon Connects. Now you're adding the civil rights law to your tool belt. So if you could touch up on, I think we got the story from the things that you've told us on why this is important to you, but I still want to bring out the show with touching up on the civil rights law. When can we expect for you to be a lawyer for someone we can reach out to? But tell us kind of the story behind that and what's to expect, what we can expect from that from you in the future.
And so it just goes back to my experience, you know, with the NACP. You know, again, one of my goals was to boost our visibility in the community. We boost our visibility, so we got, you know, an increased number of calls. And, you know, it's not that, you know, folks wasn't getting, you know, pulled over. It's not that folks wasn't getting discriminated against. They just didn't, just like me, you know, if past President Young didn't do that presentation at Mount Calvary, I would never know that it was the NACP in Fairfield. So once that visibility was boosted, then people, you know, knew they had somewhere to go to or someone to turn to. And so, you know, as a president, then it's like, okay, so how can we, you know, help them? The NACP are lawyers. You know, we do have a legal defense fund, but here locally, you know, if this brother got pulled over, got snatched out of his car, you know, we could advocate for him, but now we need a John Burrs, you know, to come out. And a lot of times, you know, we don't have any civil rights lawyers to turn to in our immediate community, you know. And that's pretty much the answer right there. We don't have anyone. And then, you know, knowing myself and knowing what my passion is, I know, you know, what my integrity is. I know what my intents are. And so, you know, I enrolled in a program at Solano Community College Pathway to Law. And so at the end of next school year, then I'm going to transfer to UC Berkeley School of Law. You know, I was thinking about going to Davis School of Law. Davis is a little more conservative. I think I fit in to Berkeley.
Oh yeah,
because of my passion, I fit into Berkeley. So, you know, but the, you know, the struggles continues. You know, I'm not going to stop. You know, even if I decide not to run for NACP president, I'm going to always be involved. You know, I'm gonna continue to study law. You know, so I could assist the branch. I could assist anybody that just give me a call and say, hey man, this happened to me. So until, you know, I get that law degree and until I pass the bar and able to practice law, you know, we're going to always, because it's the education is there. You always have to educate yourself. And one of the things that I learned is that whenever we go up against someone or we go to advocate for someone's behalf, always know how that other individual is going to think. So you always have to do your homework. You know, you got to, who is the school board president? what's this person's background, what's their train of thought, what's their pedigree, so you can know how to, even just push their buttons and let them lose their character, at a public school board meeting. So you see, this is who's educating our kids. Right. This is who we're turning our kids over to. You know what I'm saying? So
that's part of negotiations. That's negotiations one-on-one. Who you sitting across the table from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah, man, just keep me in your prayers, God willing. I definitely know this is the path that he put me on. Yes. So it's just a good thing that when you're in the middle of God's will, I remind them before I go take on a big giant, before I take on my Goliath, is that, you sent me here, bro. You said you'll protect me. So
he wouldn't put you anywhere where he knows that you can't prevail, because that's not how he works.
Absolutely.
But you just got to be, here's the thing, in life, you've got to be assiduous, which means you got to be unrelenting. You got to be constant in life. And you got to make sure that every day that we are blessed to wake up, as Benny said, amidst these fires going on. And even though he was evacuated, he mentioned how blessed he is because he's still here. So that means he's got to make sure that he's unrelenting, because God is unrelenting. Everything he's going to do and reveal to you is unrelenting. You know what I mean? And what I love about what you just touched up on, and I mentioned it before, the 5 P's of success. You just touched up on it. You mentioned passion. You mentioned purpose. You know what I mean? The fact that you've gotten involved with the NAACP, you connect people to people. You're going to be a lawyer of the people. You work with the census, which is learning the people. That's one of the 5 P's is people. Obviously, you got a plan because you've mapped this thing out. But like I just said, persistence, which is being unrelenting. You got to make sure that you got to be made of something. You got to stand for something, which is where that passion comes in. And you can tell that you're passionate not only about, but for your community. You know what I mean? And I appreciate the fact that we've got you as a president out here for our local branch of the NAACP. I appreciate you for taking this time to come in and share your passion, because this is important. It's important for people to know that they got the Mike Silvas, they've got the Pastor Isams, the Pastor Gilmores, they've got the Johnicons out here that are tangible people that, like Benny said, they're not talking about problems. We're talking about application. What can we do? Okay, if we get out there and do the census, instead of complaining about our streets and our schools, let's do the census. Let's get some proper funding for our streets and our schools. There's certain things that you can actually do, and bringing you on the show just further shows that application of how a kid who can move from Chicago at 10 years old, come to Bayview Hunters Point, then move to Solano County, how he can navigate through all of that different terrain of life and still see his purpose and his passion. And I love you for coming on the show, man, for being somebody that I know I can call. You on my phone, I know I can call you, I can hash things out with you. We can actually come up with some solutions. So thank you for coming on the show, man. I really do appreciate it. I hope people really do get these nuggets that we're trying to bring to our community. And today, once again, just to recap, we got a local NAACP branch.
Yes, you do.
Reach out to Johnicon, become a member.
Yes,
it's not even that expensive to be a member, but get involved. Don't just join, get involved. Know some of the key players out here.
Absolutely.
Know that you got somebody like Johnicon that can connect you to other people. There's a guy out here named Steve Lessler, and he's got a company called the Lessler Group. And this dude, all he's done his whole life was connect people to people. And he retired just recently, connecting people to people. So you're a connector. I love it. The census.
Icon Connect.
Icon Connects. People go check it out. Icon Connects. Census. When they come by, when you get the stuff, when you get the calls, do our census. The importance of it is for our community. And last but not least, the civil rights law, I applaud you on that, because education is key. Benny and I talk about that all the time. It's never too late to continue to learn. When I graduated with my AA degree, there's an 80-year-old man graduating. They went crazy for him at 80 years old, graduating with his AA, more so than anybody else, because life is a constant process of bettering yourself. And you got to educate yourself. So thank you for coming on the show. I'll let Benny take us out of here. But before I do that, everybody, please like us on Facebook, but go to YouTube. Benny and I are trying to draw more viewership to our content on YouTube. We're going to start spazzing up our channel, making it look a little bit better, but we want you guys to, it's the same content no matter what. You're going to get the same nuts and bolts, but we want you guys to come on, subscribe to the channel. When you get those notifications every Thursday and Sunday, watch the show. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, sit down somewhere, have some wine. Let us talk to you for an hour. We don't want to do anything but empower you, change your mindset, and have a good time. But I thank you guys for watching. I'll let Benny take us out of here. But Johnicon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, Johnicon. Thank you again for making the time for us. And everything that Khalil said, please go ahead and do it. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We're making this information, this value accessible to you. You know, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. You know, that helps us stay motivated. It helps us let us know that we're on track and that we are being a source of value. And chime in, give us some feedback. Let us know if there's some other topics you want us to go over. Let us know if there's some other guests that you think we should have on. We're going to continue to do this Thursdays at 6, Sundays at 2:30. And we just hope that we're being a resource and being able to provide value that is needed in our communities and needed everywhere. This is, like I said, it's a global empowerment team and we're a movement. Thank you so much for chiming in. Thank you for your time. Everybody stay blessed, take care. See you soon.
Thank you, brothers.
Thank you, sir.